Back to the breaking news of the hour. Donald Trump appears to be caving, saying online that his administration will now provide the funding for SNAP food benefits in November once a federal court clarifies, quote, how we can legally supply the money. Now, folks, it's unclear why the court needs to explain that after it ruled the funding must be provided by Trump. His administration. Look, I don't get it.
I think the easiest explanation for people at home to wonder, like, well, what's going on with the SNAP? Congress appropriated dollars and set aside money for a contingency, emergency, rainy day fund, whatever you want to call it, under the USDA, right? That's in the Agriculture Department, okay? And for SNAP, there's about, people estimate $5.5, almost $6 billion in that fund. It costs about anywhere between $8 and $9 billion to fund SNAP each month. The $6 billion-ish that are in the fund could fund SNAP for a couple of more weeks. The administration has said repeatedly they did not believe they had the legal authority to do so, even though they didn't care about doing it for the military, right? They didn't ask for legal authority there. They just did it. Well, today a judge said, you must, I'm requiring you to, i.e., here is your legal authority. And now the administration is saying, well, I don't know if we have it. We're looking for clarity. But now the president is like, I'm happy to do this. I think people should be fed. I'm glad that this seems to be coming to a solution, but I think it's important that people understand how we got here. And it's only because people raise their voices that the president is relenting.
Yeah, I mean, Simone made a really interesting point earlier, Michael, which is when you are the president, the vice president of the United States, she knows this well, she has worked for both, you're sort of inoculated. You're in a bubble. You know what your advisors tell you. You know when you're out on the trail what folks tell you. But to some extent, there is a question of how he has metabolized the way in which this is actually impacting not just voters at large, Michael, but his voters. And it would seem in some ways talking about the courts is simply an off-ramp here for him.
Oh, it is an off-ramp for him. And look, I don't think Donald Trump really is that concerned about what happens to Americans writ large or his voters specifically. It's a question of how it's going to impact his numbers, how it's going to impact the things that he wants to get done. Ultimately, he'll give a little bit here, I think, in the long run, because there is no other way to go but to end this thing. And so now he's hearing the pushback, to Simone's point, from a lot of Americans out there, particularly now that we're at the deadline. And as a number of folks have said, when he got back from Asia, guess what? He sit down, hear the screaming and the shouting and the yelling and the gnashing of teeth and have a change of heart. And here we are.